Hello everyone. I attended an interview in a company called Tech for Solution, and the company location is New Delhi, and the interview date was the January 21st, 2026. So they asked me traits in PHP. So PHP does not support multiple inheritance directly because a class in PHP can inherit from only one parent class. This restriction avoids the complexities and ambiguities of the diamond problem, which can occur in multiple inheritance scenarios. So, for example, trait logger, public function log dollar message, and echo log dollar message. Second trait is trait notifier, public function notify dollar message, echo notification dollar message. Then class user use logger notifier, public function create user dollar name, echo user dollar name created. This log created user dollar name. This notify user dollar name has been added. So now dollar user equal to new user and dollar user create user alias. So the output will be the user alias created, log created user alias, and notification user alias has been added. The second question they asked me, reverse an array, and the array is 251759. So first of all we have to do it in the manual way. Okay, so dollar array equal to 251759, and then you will declare one variable dollar reserved equal to one blank array or empty array. Now for dollar I equal to count dollar array minus 1, dollar I is greater than or equal to 0, and dollar I minus minus, and then dollar reserved empty array equal to dollar array, and in the bracket dollar I. Then outside the for loop just print r reserved. So it will give the output of reverse this array. Second method is a built-in function. So you have an array dollar array 251759 and dollar reserved equal to array underscore reserve in the bracket dollar array, then print r dollar reserved. So it will give the output. So this is a built-in function. So descending order without built-in function. So descending order without built-in function, how can we do it? So dollar array equal to 251759 and dollar n equal to count in the bracket dollar array. Then for dollar I equal to 0, I is less than equal to dollar n and I plus plus. Another for loop is dollar j equal to dollar I plus 1, dollar j is less than dollar n, and dollar j plus plus. If left number is smaller, then swap. If dollar array I is less than dollar array j, then temp equal to dollar array dollar I. Dollar array I equal to dollar array j, and dollar array j equal to dollar temp. So this is a swapping. Now print our dollar array. Second method is the descending order by using the direct function. So you have dollar array equal to 251759. So r short, that is the reverse sort, dollar array, and then print r dollar array. So it will give the output. Third, they asked me the engines in database. So first is the INNODB. So generally we have 4 MySQL storage engines here. First is the INNODB. So this is best for application needing transactions, data integrity, and high concurrency. So the features, key features of INNODB: supports transitions, reliable data handling, supports foreign keys, relationships between tables, and uses raw level locking, better performance when multiple users are accessing the data. Also, crash recovery to prevent data loss in the case of the INNODB. Second is the ISAM, that is the indexed sequential access method. So this is the best for older system with simple ready heavy applications. So the key features of the ISAM: no transaction, that is less reliable for complex operations, no foreign key, no relationships between tables, and table level locking, slower if the multiple users are accessing data at the same time. So this is the obsolete and not commonly used anymore. Third is the heap, memory storage engine. So best for temporarily fast data storage, example for caching or intermediate operations. Key feature, in memory storage extremely fast, data disappears when the server restarts. No persistent, data is lost when the system shuts down, and ideal for temporary data that doesn't need to be saved. So this is the heap. Fourth is the MyISAM, that is best for read heavy application that don't require. Okay, this is the ready heavy applications that don't require transactions. So key features are no transaction, so no guarantee of data consistency. Table level locking, slower if many users access the table at once. Then supports full text indexing, useful for searching text. Faster for need operations but not ideal for the concurrent writes. So the summary is INNODB best for application needing transaction and data safety. ISAM, old engines, no transactions or relationships, rarely used today. Heap, fast temporarily in memory storage for the quick operations. Then MyISAM, good for read heavy applications but lacks supports for transaction. Fourth question, they ask me last second salary without using the limit in MySQL query. So the without limit is the select max salary from employee, where salary is less than select max salary from employee. So this is without the limit clause. Now if we are using the limit, so select distinct salary from employees, order by salary, disk limit 1, offset 1, or directly we can use the select distinct salary from employees, order by salary, disk limit 1, 1. So the explanation is distinct salary ensures duplicate salaries are not counted multiple times. Order by salary disk sort salaries from highest to lowest, and limit 1 skips the top one salary and gives the first one, that is a zero based index. The fifth question is drop, delete and truncate in MySQL. So delete is a SQL command used to remove one or more rows from a table based on a condition using the where clause. So it can also be used to delete all rows without dropping the table. So delete from table where condition. Second is a truncate. So first of all, we don't use any where clause in truncate. So truncate is a SQL command used to remove all rows from a table instantly and reset auto increment values while keeping the table structure intact. So it cannot delete specific rows and it is faster than delete. So it resets auto increment. So the syntax is truncate table name. Third is the drop. So drop removes the entire table, data plus structure both deleted, and the syntax is drop table employee. Sixth question is the methods in API. So the first is a GET request. A GET request is one of the more commonly used HTTP methods used to retrieve data from a server via the API, that is the application programming interface. When a client like the Postman, a browser or a front-end application sends a GET request to an API endpoint, it asks the server to return specific resources or information such as user details, product lists or settings. So GET requests are read-only operations and do not modify any data on the server. Second is the POST request. So the post request is used to send data to an API to create something new on the server. So for example, you use post to add a new request or new user, submit it a form or upload a file. Third is a put request. A put request is used to update existing data on the server. It usually replaces the entire resource with new data. Fourth is a patch request. A patch request is used to partially update existing data on the server. So unlike put, it only changes the specific fields you send. Fifth is a delete request. So a delete request is used to remove data from the server. It deletes a specific resource like a user or a record permanently. So we have some extra HTTP methods like the head method. So same as get but returns only headers, not the body. So curl -i-x head and then HTTP localhost 8000. Use cases of head method: check if resource exists, check file size before downloading or monitoring APIs. Another one is the options, allowed methods. So curl -x options HTTP localhost :8000-i. One more is the connect. Connect example, mostly not used locally. So curl -x connect HTTP localhost :8000. So use case used in the course pre-flight request. Browser check permission before post put. Third, connect method. Purpose: creates a tunnel to the server used in HTTP proxy. Curl -x connect HTTP localhost :8000. So use case VPNs, HTTPS through proxy server. Fourth is the trace method. Purpose: echoes back the request of debugging. So curl -x trace HTTP localhost :8000-i. The use case of trace: debugging request path, often disabled due to security risk. Question number 6 is how to secure the APIs. So we ensure API using the authentication, authorization, HTTP, input validation, rate limiting, and proper access control. So use authentication to secure API. Common methods: JWT tokens, Auth2, and API keys. So for example, authorization, bearer token. So only authenticated user can access APIs. Second, use authorization. What can you do? Even if user is logged in, they must have permission. Example, admin can delete, employee can only views, or role-based access control, that is RBAC. Third is the always use HTTPS. Prevents data stealing, man in the middle attack. Without HTTPS, so passwords and token can be intercepted. Fourth is the input validation and sanitations. So never trust client input, protect from SQL injections, XSS, and command injection. So the example is the filter _ $email, filter validate email. So the fifth one is the rate limiting, that is the prevent abuse. So limit number of requests per user IP. So for example, max 100 requests per minute. So it protects from DDoS, brute force attacks. Sixth is the use proper HTTP status codes. So the return correct response is the 401, that is the unauthorized, 403, that is the forbidden, and 429, too many requests. Seventh is the secure headers. So add headers like the X content types options, no sniff, and X frame options, that is deny. Eighth is the logging and monitoring. So this track the suspicious activity like the failed logins, too many requests and unauthorized access. So the tools are the ELK Stack, CloudWatch. Ninth is the avoid sensitive data exposure. So never return the password, OTPs and the internal server errors. For example, don't expose the stack trace. 10th is the use the codes properly. Allow only trusted domains. So access control allows origin, http yourfrontend.com. So the bottom line is to secure an API, use HTTPS token based authentication like JWT, role based authorization, valid all inputs, apply rate limiting, log request and restrict access with the secure headers and cores. So test secure APIs with CMD. So this is a curl-x post http localhost colon 8000 secure underscore api.php -h content type, that is the application /json -d name, and put your name Chandra and salary equal to 12,000. So the response will be the error invalid API key. Now if we are using the API key, so curl-x post http localhost 8000 /secure api.php -h content type application /json -h x API key, that is 12345 and secret key -d name equal to Chandra and salary equal to 12,000. So now the output will be the secure data received successfully, name Chandra and the salary is the 12,000. So the bottom line is, in core PHP, secure APIs by validating API keys or JWT tokens in headers, enforcing HTTPs, sanitizing inputs, applying rate limiting and returning proper HTTP status codes. Question number 7 is session and cookies. You can store data temporarily in the cookies or in the local storage, that is the client side, using cookies. Cookies allow you to store data in the user's browser, which persists even after the browser is closed unless the cookies expire. So how do we set a cookie? Set cookie user data, that is temporary value, time plus 3600. So cookies expire in 1 hour. Access the cookies. If set cookie user data, so echo $cookies user data. So the output will be the temporary value. So using local storage, client-side JavaScript, although not directly part of PHP, local storage is a common method for storing non-sensitive user data in the browser. So you can use JavaScript to handle this. Store data in localhost, local storage.set item, user data and temporary value. So access data from local storage. Let user data equal to local storage.get item, that is user data. Console.log user data, that is output temporary value. Key difference. Session store data server side. Cookies stores data client side on the user's browser for both logged in and non-logged in users. Database stores permanently user data server side for logged in user, and local storage stores data client side on the user's browser for non-logged in user or logged in user, only available to the JavaScript within the same origin, not sent to the server. Question number 8. Aggregate functions in MySQL. So aggregate, that means group function used by group by. So counts the number of rows, select count from employees. Sum returns the total sum, select sum salary from employee. AVG returns the average, select AVG salary from employees. Max returns the maximum values, select max salary from employees. Min, return the minimum value. Select min salary from employees. So the aggregate functions, how many aggregate functions are there in MySQL? 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the 5. That is count, sum, AVG, max, min. Question number 9 is the SQL versus MySQL. So SQL stands for Structured Query Language. Purpose: SQL is a language used to interact with databases. So used for creating tables, inserting data, updating data and fetching data. So example, select star from employee. So the key points are SQL is a standard language, not a software. MySQL is a RDBMS, that's a Relationship Database Management System. Purpose: MySQL is a database software that use SQL. So this is used for storing and managing data, running SQL queries. For example, MySQL server stores the employees table. So if you can create a table for SQL and MySQL. So language, SQL is a language, MySQL is a database software, that is RDBMS. So the full form of the SQL is the Structured Query Language. MySQL, my equal to name plus SQL. Third is the write queries in SQL. MySQL stores and manages data. SQL example is the select and insert. In MySQL server, MySQL DB. SQL works with many DBs. MySQL use SQL to operate. So the bottom line is SQL is a standard query language used to communicate with databases, whereas MySQL is a relational database management system that implements SQL to store and manage data. Question number 10, types of API. So based on accessibility, public APIs, that is open API, available to everyone, used by the external developers. For example, Google Maps API or Twitter API. Second, private API, internal API, used only inside the organization, not exposed publicly. For example, company payroll API, used internally. Third is the partner API, shared with the specific business partners, requires authentication and agreements. For example, payment gateway API, shared with the merchants. Fourth is the composite APIs, combines multiple API calls into one request. Example, one request return user plus orders plus payment details. Second is the based on the architecture or style. First, the REST API, most popular, use HTTP methods, get, post, put, delete. Data mostly in JSON. For example, get/employees. Second is the SOAP APIs, user XML, more strict and secure, used in the banking government systems. Third is the GraphOL API. So client request only needed data, single endpoints. Example, employee name, salary. Fourth is the gRPC API, high performance, uses protocol buffers and used in microservices. Third, based on the communication, web API, accessible over internet using HTTP. Library APIs, functions provided by programming libraries. Example, Java Collections API. Then operating system APIs, used to interact with operating system resources. Example, Windows API. So the bottom line is APIs can be public, private, partner or composite based on access. Architecturally, common type of REST, SOAP, GraphOL and gRPC. So the quick table is public, that is Google Maps API. Private, internal HR API. Partners, payment gateway partner API. REST, JSON plus HTTP method. SOAP, XML based banking APIs. GraphOL, flexible data queries. gRPC, fast microservice API. Question number 11, UTF-8 in MySQL. So UTF-8 is a character encoding. It allows MySQL to store and display text in multiple languages. So for example, it supports English, Hindi, Japanese or emojis also. So why UTF-8 is needed? Without UTF-8, special character may become question mark. Hindi Unicode text may not store correctly. For example, insert into name values Chandra. So UTF-8 ensure it stores properly. So important interview points. MySQL has two UTF types. UTF-8, that is old limited, supports only up to 3 bytes and cannot store emojis. UTF-8 MB4 recommended, supports full Unicode 4 bytes, can store emojis and all symbols. So always prefer UTF-8 MB4. So set database char set to the UTF-8. Best practice: create database company, character set UTF-8 MB4, collat UTF-8 MB4 underscore Unicode underscore CI. So set table char set, create table employee ID int name varchar, character set UTF-8 MB4, convert existing table, alter table employee, convert to character set UTF-8 MB4, collat UTF-8 MB4 underscore Unicode underscore CI. So UTF-8 in MySQL is used to store multilingual Unicode data. MySQL's UTF-8 is limited, so UTF-8 MB4 is recommended for full Unicode support, including the emojis. So the question number 12 is, what is the collation in MySQL? So collation defines how MySQL compares and sort text, that is string data. It controls alphabetic order, case sensitivity, accent sensitivity. So character set versus collation. So term and meaning. Character set, which characters can be stored, UTF-8 etc. Collation, how characters are compared or sorted. Example, table uses UTF-8 char set, character set UTF-8 MB4. Now collation decides sorting, collat UTF-8 MB4 Unicode CI. So common collation, UTF-8 MB4 general CI, fast less accurate sorting. Second, UTF-8 MB4 Unicode CI, accurate recommended. UTF-8 MB4 bin, case sensitive binary comparison. What does underscore CI mean? CI means case sensitive, case insensitive. Example, select a capital A equal to small a. So with underscore CI collation true. Case sensitive collation example, UTF-8 MB4 underscore bin, then a capital A equal to small a, so this is the false. So set collation in query, select name from employee, order by name, collat UTF-8 MB4 underscore Unicode underscore CI. So the one liner is, or the bottom line is, collation in MySQL defines the rule of comparing and sorting string data such as case sensitivity and Unicode ordering. So this was the interview in a company called Tech4 Solutions, and the company location New Delhi, and the interview date was the January 21, 2026. So I will share more interview question with you. Till then, bye.